about designing quilts is that you really need 4 things to, and I think this relates to, wouldn't you say it relates to art as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Most definitely.
I went over this with Michael last night, and I said, tell me if I'm off somewhere, but this is what I am thinking are the most important parts. And I think it does relate to painting and composition.
And this was very late at night. Probably about 3:30 in the morning. No, I'm kidding.
It wasn't that late.
I'm kidding.
It wasn't that late. He was awake when I was talking.
Yes,
to him,
I was.
So.
Yes.
So the 4 things, and I have it here, and I'm going to see if we can see it on the screen. Yes. So there's 4 things: scale, value, balance, and rest. So typically I like to work in 3s, but this one really, I thought that we needed to go over 4 things for this. So the quilt behind me, we're going to use an example. So for me, scale. So in your quilt, you want to have varying scale of fabric. So a large scale fabric, and I'm going to grab this one. I would say
Perfect.
this, it was just sitting there on top.
There you go.
I would call this a large scale.
Yes.
I mean, there's some that are bigger. Cape sometimes is bigger than this.
Huge.
Huge.
Lake house. Huge.
So this I would call a large scale print for this, what we're putting together right now. So if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to continue to put fabrics that are the same size pattern with this, because I won't be able to get the movement in the quilt and the rest of the pieces if I don't have scale first.
Right.
So I could put, and this is not planned, people, and I'm not saying I'm going to put these together, I'm just showing you scale. So this is a smaller scale. It doesn't compete with the larger scale.
Yeah, sure. Certainly wouldn't put those 2 together. But anyway, I know what you're saying. Yes.
I'm just grabbing.
I know, sweetheart.
All
I
right.
know.
So scale is important. So let's look at the quilt behind me and look at the different scale prints and see if this one passes the scale test. So let's look. So this quilt has, I would say this is a larger scale. I think the border is a larger scale. And then we have some smaller scale. So we have these leaves are smaller than the large scale, and we have this kind of filigree type piece here that, and we'll get to the next part. This will be important for value. But we have some different scale prints. And then we have this, which is almost a solid, kind of a mottled. So we have varying scale. So we've passed the scale test. We have large scale, we have some medium scales, and we have some tonals or small scale prints. So we're good. First of all, you can see that the quilt behind me works, right? How many times have you made a quilt or saw a quilt that somebody finished, and for some reason it just didn't, it was flat, or it didn't spark, like you didn't really love it? And I mean, I've had quilts like that too.
Many times.
Yes. Because I don't follow the rules. If I followed the rules,
but I've seen many like
those. But yeah,
yes.
And sometimes you can't put your finger on it. But if you think about a quilt, and I have some, I should have pulled one of them that failed this test, and we can figure out why. And you can usually go through the scale, value, balance, or rest. So this one we know has scale. Does it have value? So value is where we talk about lights, mediums, and darks. And that's the one where you guys are very sophisticated and you have special tools that you use that you can look at your fabrics, where I do the very highly sophisticated squint like that. And that's what I do when I look at quilt, because it's just, I'm not as high tech as everybody else. So if I want to see what is the light in the dark, I will squint and see what jumps out at me.
Right.
I mean,
that's what you do.
There's also the, I'm pointing to the door, the peephole method. There's those film, like a red, or it's like a thing that you can put over the fabrics that kind of takes away the color,
right,
that lets you see just value.
Right.
So on this one, thankfully, we do. Let's see. We have light. I would say we've got some lights, and we've got some darks. And what's kind of cool is the way this medium plays right here. It looks like it's almost a screen that's been placed over this when you look at it. It looks like I've taken some sheer white and laid it diagonally
Yes, you have.
over this, because it looks like if I laid this over this, I would get that. So I've kind of played with the value a little bit in this one to really give it. So what value does is it gives it that depth perception. Okay, it's necessary for designs to show up. If I didn't use contrast in the value, you wouldn't be able to see the points on the star or the corners on those blocks. Let's see. It allows some things to move forward and other things to move back in the design.
Exactly.
So the third thing is balance. What?
Not to interrupt too much.
Oh, no, I love it.
I'm sorry. MC Escher is a good example of the forward and backward.
You're such a stinker. I am doing MC Escher next week.
Okay. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. But oh my goodness.
But true. MC Escher's a master at it.
Yes. Yeah. Was, yes.
Was. Well, the work still lives.
That's true.
You saying MC Hammer?
No!
Looks like Sean needs to be here for next week's lesson.
I'm sorry, sweetheart.
Can't touch this.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, now all I hear is MC Hammer in my head. So.
Oh, God.
All right, so we've done, let's see, scale. We've done value. Now let's talk about balance. I thought about calling it pattern, but I thought balance was a better term to use artfully. It's like repeat. So, and I probably shared this before. There's a thing we used to do in prayer quote ministry where everybody would bring 2.5-inch strips, lights and darks, and we'd have a dark box and we'd have a light box, and everybody's strips go in the box. Okay, all different, don't match, just crazy, right? And what you would do is you would pull 5 darks and 4 lights to make a 9-patch, and you'd have to take those and we'd figure out where was the best placement, and they really don't look like they work together. But what happens is when you create a 9-patch and repeat it throughout the quilt, you are creating a design, a pattern, balance, because the eye expects it to repeat.
Mm-hmm.
So, and those quilts actually turned out to be some of the prettiest quilts.
Right.
They also were very, very good because we put in rest, which we'll get to next.
Right.
Quilt patterns typically provide balance because they're pretty geometric, and they tend to repeat the design. So, we can have, like, this one is 2 different blocks that work together for a secondary design. Sometimes it'll be 1 block with a solid. Sometimes it's a 1-block quilt throughout. But that repeat creates pattern, which is the eye is always seeking. Right? Help me out, Art Man.
Yes. I wasn't disagreeing.
No, I know that this is really your background.
No, you hit it on the head there.
Okay, so you typically that one's pretty well established in the quilt design. So this one has balance because in that the blocks they don't really compete with one another, they really complement one another. Quilts that produce that secondary design where we get that excellent diagonal where it looks like it's an overlay. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Oh, the next one I'm going to show you is that type of quilt where the way the blocks go together, it connects and creates flow throughout the quilt. Borders can do that too in framing the design.
Yes.
Can create that balance, almost a calm. Just like when you frame a piece of art and you mat it, and you have to decide, what width of mat would be best to accent the piece of art.
And you can so easily mess it up.
You can mess it up.
Yes.
And sometimes it does need a narrow, and sometimes it needs a lot of space between it and the frame.
Right.
It just depends. And we're trying. I don't want to make this more complicated than it is.
It's not.
It really isn't.
No.
And when we get to the part where I'm talking about, it's going to simplify everything. But I just really wanted to talk about when you look at a quilt and for some reason you can't put your finger on why it doesn't work, you can think about these 4 things. The next one is rest. Rest is, and rest doesn't mean white.
No.
Rest can be the absence, rest is simply the absence of design.
Neutral.
Neutral.
Yes.
So absence of things for your eyes to look at.
Think Switzerland.
Things what's
Neutral.
No, it's not like that.
Sean's like, oh God.
It's the area where it falls away from the eye to where you really don't even see it. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in this one, it does happen to be the large areas of white that are in this quilt.
Right.
So this one you get rest in that white. I think you also get some rest in the border
You do.
in this one. So your eye has to be rested. If there's too much competing and the eye has nowhere to rest, the eye wants to dart from design to design to design and is looking for that repeat. And if the eye does not get to rest, it's too much.
And it
it's-
gives up, and you move on.
it gives up and you move on. So the eye is constantly looking for that negative space, that absence of design, absence of color. We do a lot of black background.
Right.
It can be white. It can be anything that lets, and it depends on if your fabrics are super intense, like when we do CAFE. The black kind of really kicks in that absence of design and gives the eye time to rest before the next print.
Right. Right.
So,
Perfectly said.
oh well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions on that, you guys? That was a lot of information.
Any questions? I
Crickets.
haven't seen anything.
Crickets.
We're good.
All
Yep,
right.
A lot of crickets.
That's what I always tell my students, either you already knew all this or I completely confused you.
Hopefully there's not a lot of head scratching going on.
And typically I can see their faces and I kind of know, you know? It's kind of harder to do with this than when I do a workshop or speak at a conference or do something where I can see the faces and I know when we're making a connection or not. So hopefully that makes sense. I really wanted to simplify it. So that kind of leads us into A-OK. Yes.
Real quick.
Question.
Yes. Tora, or
Oh,
yes,
yeah, Tora. Mm-hmm.
What about gray and taupe as your neutral? Yes. Excellent.
Absolutely. A lot of times I used any neutral tone. It used to be always those soft whites, the off whites.
Mm-hmm.
I remember using a lot of those in those scrap quilts because they really gave that negative space for those scrappy designs. But yeah, gray, taupe, I love all that.
Mm-hmm.
We've even done it with light blue, soft pinks, flesh tones. I'm trying to think of some of the other quilts we did. Even a soft green can be the absence of
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. Any muted color.
any muted color
Really.
that gives the eye a break from the design.
Right.
The only time I think it really wouldn't work is I'm thinking like if it were a hunter green and the colors were saturated in the other fabrics.
True.
I don't think that would provide rest, but it could if the fabrics had enough contrast
Right.
in value.
Right.
Okay. So, knowing those things about quilts. Oh, let's look at the other one.
The other quilt?
Yeah.
Are you really? Already?
Already.
Oh my goodness.
So
Okay.
let's look at this one and look at how, because this one is a scrappy quilt. And I really want to show this one because it has a lot of rest.
Tons.
I think we're only going to be able to see part of it.
Can you,
Let's just do this. You want to just, oh, like this?
there you go.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
So I want to show this one because this one is truly a scrappy quilt. And you can see, because I can see it on the screen, I can see, you first of all, there's and we looked at this last night together, many different scales. There's a huge mix of florals and dainty prints and tonals in this quilt. This quilt is actually usually on the guest bed in the guest room. This is the one that Auntie gets to use, and Sean too. But yeah, I love this quilt so much.
It's gorgeous.
So this one is, but you can see that so there is scale, okay? There's also value, because I sorted my strips, and this was just 50 strips. I sorted the strips to put the darker here and the medium on the others. So you can see that the darker comes through. Do you see that? You see it on I can see it on the screen.
Well,
That gives it a lot of perspective because you're not right up on it. So we have some value. And the other thing on this one is we have balance. So there's 2 blocks in this. There's that X block and there's that O block. So here's an O block and there's an X block. And they play together to create that balance, that pattern of design that goes throughout the quilt. And rest. I picked this one because there is so much going on in those scrap strips. The eye really needed some rest. Now, my quilter quilted a beautiful, and you probably can't see it on the screen, beautiful medallion designs into the open area on this.
You can't really see
Yeah,
it.
you really can't
Yeah.
see it, but trust me,
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
Oh my gosh.
he did a fabulous job. So that created another layer of design.
The detail. Yeah. Oh my Lord.
This quilt is very special to me.
Yeah.
So the rest in this one, it was very, very important. It could have been black background. It could have been gray or taupe or anything like that. Just needed a lot of rest. And this quilt just works. So, okay.
Oh, real quick.
Uh-huh.
Vicky Heck. The squint test works. Who knew?
Who knew?
Yeah, there you go.
See? You don't need expensive tools and things, right?
No, just squint.
Crazy.
It kind of just blends everything together.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not pretty though. Try not to look at people while you do
Yeah,
it, but-
especially in the museum or oh Lord, look, what's wrong with you?
Oh, I can't wait to go back to this museum.
I know.
Okay.
I know.